Managing Director of Management Consulted, and I'm here today to talk about the sweet spot of networking. Now, networking is one of my favorite things to talk about, and the reason is that it's a very strategic process. Many people that are going into consulting and approaching the firms believe that the strategy starts when you start the case interview, but that is not true. The strategy starts from the minute you begin to plan your approach to the people and the processes of any one firm. And so I like to talk about the sweet spot of networking in order to help you understand how to maximize your chances of getting responses from people and building an advocate inside the firm. So today I've broken down the networking process into 5 different rules that are key for hitting the sweet spot of networking. So I'm going to lay those 5 rules out for you, and I'm going to be able to highlight them so that you're able to understand what we go through internally inside the firm and then how you can work with somebody really clearly. So the first rule is that you want to make sure that you're talking to the right person at the firm. Now, I've talked previously about the different levels at the company, how there are 4 general chunky levels, even though they may be broken up into sub-levels in many firms. And in general, one of the common fallacies for consulting is that you believe that the most senior people will have the most influence on your application. Well, if you're coming in at a very junior position, that's not true. The most senior people are actually going to be the most removed from your process. So unless you have a strong relationship built with them already, it's not likely that they're going to listen to you or turn an ear to you or become an advocate for you. So in general, a good rule of thumb is that if somebody is 1 to 2 years ahead of you inside the firm, they're a great person, a great target for who will serve as a potential advocate for you inside the firm. Also, if you happen to be at an information session or if you're looking on LinkedIn and you connect with somebody who has a common connection in place, maybe a school or an interest or some kind of history in your background, make sure that you highlight that connection, because that connection might make that person the right person inside the firm. The second thing that's important to understand is approaching them at the right time. So at the right time means not during the height of recruiting season, and definitely not right after the height of recruiting season. What firms do is that they sit down. Generally, most firms do this in late July or early August, and they determine their hiring targets for the upcoming year. This is for full-time hires, which they're open to both experienced hires and on-campus hires. And when they're going through that process, essentially right when it's done, every single one of those chairs is available but empty, and it's yours to grab. So if you go through the networking process in June or July in the US for this, then it's a really ripe time to build relationships with people before they go into extremely busy seasons where they're both doing their standard client work and going through the recruiting process. It's also really important to understand that for summer internships, the process holds true. So you want to go early, November or December, for internships where the actual information sessions and everything that's tied to that happen in the January-February timeframe. So make sure that you're making direct approach to people at the companies before they arrive on campus, before they're busy with entire informational interviews, and just try to hit them beforehand so that you're able to build some rapport. The third thing that it's important to know is that you want to be talking to someone at the right firm. What I mean by this is that you don't want to talk to somebody who has been at the firm but left. While they can be a great source of information, then that's fantastic, and it's still a key part of networking. When I'm talking about hitting the sweet spot, you want to hit somebody who's currently inside the firm. They're the ones with the influence. They're the ones who have the most interest in advocating for you. In addition, you definitely want to make sure that you're not using up too many rows of warm networking leads in order to get contact with somebody in the firm. You can go directly to them rather than working through 4 or 5 different people to get friends of friends of friends who are ultimately inside a consulting firm. 1 degree of separation is fine. Multiple degrees really ends up losing its power. The fourth thing is that you want to talk to somebody who's in the right location. When I'm talking about location, I mean that offices for consulting are very location specific. So if you're able to get contact with somebody who's in a particular office, you don't want to then go through the process of using them just to get into another office. You want to make sure that that office, the one that you're approaching the person in, is an office of interest to you. And if you're interested in other offices, it's great to go ahead and let them know that right up front. They can often give you a good read on what will be possible or what will be beneficial in terms of your application. In addition, if there are offices that have particular openings, oftentimes the networking process is the best way to figure out which offices are going to be the most attractive for your skills or background or for their current hiring needs. The final thing is that you want to make sure that you're approaching a person for the right position. And when I say that, I mean for the right position for you. You need to have some intelligence about the firm, what they call their different positions, and where you're most likely to fit in. And you never want to downplay yourself. There were many people who said, well, I'm so willing to come to Bain that I would take the very lowest level of position, when really they should have been advocating for a manager or a partner position based on their age and experience. So even if you feel unqualified, it's important to recognize that the firm isn't going to place you in a position that's going to create a weird cultural fit or a weird dynamic on the teams. So make sure that you're applying for the position and calling it the correct name that is the most appropriate for you. So these 5 things are really critical when you're thinking about going through the process of consulting. You need to be talking to the right person at the right time, at the right firm, in the right location, and for the right position. If you can keep these 5 things in mind, where all of those intersect is the sweet spot of networking. If you want more information about networking, we have a lot of it on our website, so please visit us at managementconsulted.com.